Yesterday, we started with navigating Amathuba, brief orientation. We looked at roles, and then we also dived into some of the activities, and we looked at grades and groups, the creation of grades and groups, and the foundation first approach. What we didn't get to yesterday was the assignment section, so Yakuluntu is quickly going to start us off with that today. And then after that, we will continue into the next sessions, which would be the content. So that would be similar to your Vula lessons. And then also towards the end, we're going to look at several ways that you can communicate with students. There's some advanced features, intelligent agents, enrolling, unrolling users, announcements and emails, and also the calendar. So without further ado, I'm handing over to my colleague Yakuluntu.
Thank you, Nadine, and hello everyone. Just to show my camera to be friendly, I will turn it off now. So I will share my screen right now, and we will continue with assignments where we left off yesterday. So with the assignments, as we've mentioned, that it's available within the nav bar, the main nav bar, under activities. So we're going to create an assignment because yesterday we had not managed to create an assignment. So you go to activities, there's a drop-down menu, click on assignments. And then once you get to assignments, you see that there's the red button that says new assignment because you want to create a new assignment, create a new assignment, and then it's loading. And then you would name your assignment. For example, maybe assignment 1, maybe, I don't know, maybe critical thinking or whatever that the name of the assignment. And then once you've added your name, you would provide a due date for that assignment. Maybe it's due on the 18th of November. And then the grading. Remember, we said that the best practice is to have first set up your grade book, to have set up your grades before actually setting up your assignment. And then you are able to provide instructions for the assignment, as this is important so that they know when it's due and all that. So maybe this is an individual assignment, and maybe you have readings that you're reminding them of the readings that they need to utilize for the assignment, and maybe reiterate whatever that you need to reiterate in terms of maybe the due date. So remember, we said you have to link it with you linking it with either existing assignments, or maybe it's not linked in the grade book. You can also reset to ungraded. So that's the 3 options there. And as I said, there is the rich text editor that allows you to either insert an image, insert whatever that you need to insert, and maybe a link that you need to insert. And then the availability dates for this assignment. Maybe it's sort of the release conditions on when you want this assignment to appear for your students. And then you also manage special access for your students, where you allow maybe certain users with special access to submit outside maybe the normal availability dates, or you allow only users with special access to see this folder. This is where you'd add users to a special access. And then there's also submission and completion. It's an individual assignment, and category would be the groups, sort of, are there groups within this assignment, and then the submission file, and how many times how many files rather are they supposed to submit. And then you also have your evaluations and feedback. This is where if you had an existing rubric, this is where you can link a rubric, or you can create a new one, and you can also manage Turnitin. You can enable the similarity report, and you can, if you want to enable this, you would check this, and you would then click save. And here you can also either record audio, record video if you want, or as I said, attach a web link. And it's important that you make this assignment visible for your students to see. And then you'd save and close. So your assignment is saved there. And as you can see here, this is a graded item. And then you'd also have an icon here, which would tell you that there is a Turnitin, it's enabled. So that's how you would create your assignments. I will pause and ask, are there any questions concerning the assignments tool? So it would then have to be visible. Let me go back to the assignment. Make sure that it's visible. So here, for example, it's unhidden. So we've made it sure that it's visible. It's important that that visibility icon, you click on it to make sure that it's visible to your students. Are there any questions at this stage?
Hi, can I just wanted to clarify again. You mentioned that we first have to go into the gradebook, because currently gradebook is set up for us. So I can just go to an assignment first and then it will automatically send it. But with this system, you're saying I've got to go in and create the item in the gradebook first before I set up like an assignment, for example.
So yes, you have to have created your link it to an existing gradebook, and then your assignments, you're creating your assignment with an already existing gradebook. So that's where you'd link then whatever grade, you'd link the assignments to that. For example, here, say edit assignment. So in the gradebook, you would be able to link it to the existing grade that you've set up. I don't know if that makes sense. Was I able to answer your question?
Sorry, I had a thumbs up. Yes, thanks.
All right. If there aren't any other questions, in the interest of time, I will hand back over to Nadine. Let me stop sharing.
Aisha has a hand up.
Oh, yes, Aisha.
Hi there, good morning. Just a random question. Can one have more than one grade book per course?
Yes, I believe you can, but
no.
I still, oh, you don't.
Sorry, no, only one
Okay.
grade book per course. It's so what's very different in Amathuba than from Vula. In Vula, there were certain tools you could duplicate.
Yeah.
Like in Vula, you could duplicate lessons as many times as you wanted. That was how you added material. In Amathuba, all of your tools exist in a single instance.
Okay, so in the gradebook, can one hide certain items within the
Yes.
gradebook? Okay,
Yes.
that you
There
don't
are
want the
elements
students
that
to be visible.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
You can
awesome.
definitely hide elements. You can also keep certain elements unhidden until a certain time and then unhide them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Aisha.
Thank you, Shimali.
Kulunta, I also see Michelle has a hand up.
Yes, Michelle.
Morning. When you were doing the assignment now, you said, you need to link it to a gradebook item that you've set up. I saw there was a little tab underneath that said not in gradebook. If you click on that, does it create a gradebook item for you? what is that little button not in grade book?
Yeah,
Thank you,
Camille,
Michelle.
do you want
Yes,
to turn your, do you want to share your screen and walk us through what that looks like?
Okay. Is my screen sharing?
Yep.
Correct one. Okay. So assignment 1. So your question, Michelle, is
If you click on that not in grade book, is it going to create an item for you automatically, or I'm not sure what that button does.
Shanali. May you
Sure.
take the question? Thank you.
Michelle, I'm going to test this one in the background on another site in the next after my section, and I'll come back to you. I just want to see, it hasn't popped up. I just want to see if
I
it has
see
popped up
Kate
any
has-
options for us. Has Kate got a hand? Has Kate, you've unmuted? Go for it.
I've been doing this in the background. So what that is it's actually a drop-down list. So if you click on the little arrow at the left, what
Yeah.
it's telling you, that instruction says this item has no link, is currently not linked to any existing item that you've already set up in a grade book. So then
It's
if you
the heading
go to
of the
edit
list.
or link to existing, it will find the list of stuff that you already.
That's why I was puzzled. I was like, why has it not
and
given
then
us
the
an
other
option
two
to link?
options are
Yes.
Perfect.
The simple answer is no, it will not automatically create one for you if it doesn't exist.
You have to
What
then
that
go
is a prompt to say, oh, hang on a minute, I already set something up in my grade book. I'm going to go find it and link this particular assessment or quiz or whatever to that item. But
so
then there are the two other
is,
options that you can do that. You can create one if you haven't got one.
So the critical thing is to either have created your categories in gradebook. You don't have to have created all the items, but create the categories so that you know that you have tests and tutorials and assignments and exams. What I find slightly confusing, and this is true not just in this instance, it's true across Amathuba, that not in gradebook is not a menu item. It's an instruction that this is not in gradebook. And they do that in other places as well. What looks like it's like the first item in a menu actually isn't. So you must just look out for that and always click the down arrows if in doubt.
Thank you, Kate and Shanali. I hope that answers you, Michelle.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, again, just reiterating, that's why when Shanali demoed the grades and groups yesterday, that's why we talk about this foundations first. So I think it's really advisable taking your course outline and the weighting, or at least the categories, and build those into. So let that be one of the very first things that you do when you have your course site, so that when you're in the process, because the same will apply to the quizzes, you also need to link to an item. So anything that would need to pull through to the grade book, just make sure that you've set that up already, so that there's something that Amathuba can hook it to. Okay, thank you for all the questions, Shanali. Now we're moving on to the fun part, the contents.
Thanks very much, Nadine. Okay, colleagues, quick time check, 20 past. So we're aiming to do this in sort of the next 40-ish minutes. I'm going to try and keep my chat and my participants list open. I do want to encourage you to please feel free to ask questions at any time. Okay, don't wait until what you think feels like a nice, polite break, because there's a lot of detail in this content section, and it can become a little confusing if you wait for very long. So either put up your hand and hopefully I'll see it, and if not, just unmute and call into the meeting and we'll work from there.
I'll also check out.
Thanks, Nadine. I appreciate that. Okay, so in terms of the content tool works a little bit like what we used to think of as the lessons tool in Vula, for those of you who've used that. And what it is it's the place actually that your students see the most of. Okay, so in Amathuba terms, they think of that contents tool as the front end for everything. There's a particular pedagogic logic that lives in the Amathuba space, and that is that you're taking your students on a bit of a journey, and you want them to encounter different things on the way. So you want them to, in the contents tool, for example, encounter maybe some videos and some readings and some podcasts, but also through that contents tool, you want them to encounter assignments, quizzes, and discussions at specific times. You might want them to encounter various kinds of external tools through the contents tool, like a Padlet, Gradescope, Leganto, those kinds of external tools. You might also want them to encounter what we think of as kind of supplementary tools. You might want them to do a quick survey, some kind of checklist, and so on. So the contents tool is normally what we think of as the student-facing tool. That said, sometimes a lot of things like assessments and perhaps activities like Padlet and so on might not actually happen in chronological time in the course site itself. It might be something that you put up in a classroom and that you embed later into the course content. So just be aware that you can play around a little bit with this content tool, although it does have the strong idea of this is the pathway your students are walking. Okay, let's talk about the structure of the content tool. The content tool allows us 3 levels of information. And in the Amathuba system, in the sort of menuing system that you will see, they talk about units, lessons, and folders. Okay. The units level is fundamentally a kind of I think of it as almost like a contents page or a break page in a chapter. The way the unit tool works, the way that little structure in the content tool works, is that ideally you don't have actual content on that unit page. So when you add a unit, you're not adding content directly to that. You can add some brief placeholder element like you would have at the beginning of a book chapter, or almost like a title sequence in a series or something like that. But ideally you don't add actual content to that. Typically you can add actual content to what they call the lessons level and what they call the folder level. At both the lessons level and the folder level, you can add different items. And we're going to look at some of those. What that looks like on an Amathuba site is that you have this is what you call your unit level, this is your lesson level, and this is your folder level. And what I'm going to ask you to do now, I'm going to pop out of this and I'm going to pop into Amathuba. What I'm going to ask you to do now is I'm going to ask you to go to, sorry folks, I have had multiple sites open this morning. I'm going to ask you to go to our course site for the day, and the link for that is in the text chat. And for anyone who hasn't found that link yet, I'm going to pop it into the text chat again. We're going to go to the online training course, which you should all have access to, I hope, at this point. And I'm going to ask you to go to the content tool. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to add a unit with your name. Okay, and to add a unit with your name, you click the plus unit button, and it will take you to a screen that looks a little bit like this. And I just want you to say your name, and then I'm going to ask you to say unit level next to this, and add a little bit of text here if you'd like, and explore adding a photograph or an image of some kind if you would like, from wherever you would like. Okay, so all I want you to start off with doing for me is I want you to add a new unit. To do that, you go to the content tool, you click on new unit, you add your name and you call it unit, And then you add a little bit of text by typing in here and add an image. And that's what I'd like to ask you to do, to just make sure that you can do that. And I see there are a whole lot of untitled stuff, which is very exciting because those will change as we go. All right. I see the untitles are up. I'm hoping that soon they will have a name and just the indicator that they are a unit. And once you have an indicator that they are a unit, can I ask you to just add some text to the text box and a picture of your choice? To add a picture, you can just grab something that you've got lurking around on your desktop or on your device. You could also download a picture if you preferred. I'm going to stop talking and you can give me a thumbs up when you're done. Aha, I see Shanaz has done hers. Excellent. Great. Shanaz, do you want to try adding a picture to your to this space over here? If you would like to add a picture here and you want to edit it, the 3 little dots give you an edit option.
Sorry, Shanali. I'm struggling to connect using this link. It says not authorized.
Sure. Kenzie, give me 1 second.
I'll quickly
Thanks,
check,
Nadine.
Shannon.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, I see Carl's content, Kate's, fantastic. Shanaz's content. I see an SL10, 1110F. Fantastic. Okay, we'll give ourselves a few minutes more for everyone to get there. Nadine, I'm just going to ask you to mute at the moment because there's a bit of background noise.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries. Folks, is there anyone else who's having any problems? I see Michelle's up. Lala, welcome back, Lala. Good to have you here. And Marie and Nadine's done one and Kyle's done one. Fantastic. Is there anyone else who's struggling? Please unmute and let me know. Can say we should get you on in just a moment, and there's another couple of steps, so you'll have a chance to try this out. Okay, shall we proceed, folks? I think let's proceed. If there is anyone who's made an untitled one who's having any problems, please feel free to unmute, let us know, and we will attempt to talk you through it and solve the problem. Okay, so the next thing I want you to do, I want you to go to your unit, whatever your unit is, and I would like you to create something new in that unit, and you're going to create a folder, a new lesson. Okay, so it goes unit, lesson, folder. No logic to their naming, but that's how they go. So I want you to create a new lesson under your folder. You can call it whatever you'd like. So it could be your name and then folder, or it could be some other title underneath that. Whatever makes sense for you, you create a new folder. In fact, while you're there, I want you to create 2 folders. So let's create 2 folders in our unit. So we've all created a unit level item, and we're all going to work on creating a folder level item. And we're going to do that by clicking on create new. And we're going to click on a folder level item. And we're going to add a folder. We're going to add 2 folders, in fact, so that we can see what we're doing. And I see that whoever's working with SLL 1101 has created an images folder. And actually what that person's done is they've embedded an image. So they haven't created a folder, they've just embedded an image. What the foldering system allows you to do, folks, or what this unit folder lesson structure allows you to do is essentially it allows you to create something like a heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. So I'm just going to go back to my slides for a second. What it allows you to do is to think about, for example, doing something like a little bit like let's call it week 1. And then, or I've seen in other courses, they've done things like module 1, week 1, week 2, week 3 in the module, or they've done something like in architecture, they work in quarters. So they go quarter 1, and then they go week 1, week 2, week 3, and then they have these subfolders within that. So what this foldering system allows you to do is it allows you to create essentially H1, H2, H3 structures, levels within your content. So if we go back to our course at the moment, has anybody else managed to create some folders? Yes, everyone's created a couple of folders. And you can see that when you go and click on, and I'd invite you to do this, go and click on the little arrowheads next to people's names, you'll see that you can click on multiple ones. If you join me back on the Zoom screen, for example, we can start to see that we've got multiple sections developing here. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to go to one of those folders, any one of your choice, and I'm going to ask you to add a subfolder. So in this case, what Kate's done is she's done her top level is Kate, then she's gone first step, and then she's gone around the next bend, which is kind of how we all feel sometimes. And the way that you do that is by creating, when you are on a, not a unit level, when you are on a folder level, you go create new, and then you can create, when you're on a lesson level, you can create a new folder. I apologize for this language. It's just horribly unintuitive. So we have units, we have units, we have lessons, and we have folders. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is under a unit, which is the second level, to create yourself a folder. And the way that you do that is you just go create new, and now you have a folder. In most courses, you won't need to go 3 levels down. In most courses, 2 is more than sufficient structuring. So let's take a moment. So everyone should now have this kind of, should be working on like this 3-level thing. And you know that there's something there because someone's hidden the little arrow turns to a little sideways arrow, and that gives you an indication that there are multiple levels happening there. So give yourself a try and create something. Give yourself a situation where you have a unit, and then you have a lesson, and then you have a folder. Okay, any questions? Yes,
maybe it's worth mentioning just that whenever you create something new, it matters where you are at that stage, because if you are in the unit and you click create new, it's going to create something on the lesson folder. But if you're in the lesson and you create new, it's going to create something on the folder level.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nadine. Very helpful.
That just means that we're going in, except for staying on the same level, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So if you want to create, can I ask everybody to join me back on their Zoom screens so that you're looking at your shared screen with me? I'll give you a moment to get there. Okay, so if you're back on your Zoom screen, and I'm just going to use Kate's one at the top here as an example. If I wanted to create another one of this level, another lesson level item, I would need to be on the unit level item to create new. You will find that this first icon changes every time. So if I am on a unit level and I go create new, I see new lesson. If I am on a new lesson and I go create new, I see create a new folder. And finally, if I am on, and those are our 3 levels for now. We're going to talk about another one in a moment. Any comments, any questions?
Thanks for clearing that up. I was slightly confused by the different levels and units and folders. Thanks.
It's one of those really weird things. It can be a very useful tool for structuring content, because otherwise what tends to happen is everybody just drops everything under this first level, under the first unit level. And then it's just a bit of it's an orderly mess, but there's no way of differentiating the importance of information. Thanks, Shanaz. Anybody else with questions? Okay, colleagues, let us move forward. The next thing that I want to talk about, and I hope everybody's back on their Zoom screens for a second, is that at both the lesson level and the folder level, you can either add an existing item or you can create a new item. It is up to you. Okay, so either at the lesson level, that's that second level unit, or at the folder level, the third level, you can create either an existing element or a new element. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about this a little bit, and then we're going to have an opportunity to do that. So as I said at the beginning, Amathuba encourages chunking content, i.e. breaking it up. Depending on the level of your students and depending on their digital literacy, depending on how much you want to watch what they're doing online, you may chunk things up into smaller pieces, or you may actually thread longer pieces together. If you have a very junior class, particularly if you've got first-year classes, chunking is incredibly important, because in the first instance, your students can simply see, whenever they land on Amathuba on your course site, they can simply see what the last thing was that they did if you've chunked things up small enough. And that helps them to pick things up, obviously, and stay, kind of pick things up timelessly. The second thing is that in terms of analytics within Amathuba, it allows you to see what students have or haven't done. And that's incredibly important. You can, if you chunk your content up carefully, I'm not saying necessarily tiny, but carefully, you can also use particular features like intelligent agents or release conditions to communicate with your students. So, or to adjust your students' behavior. So for example, if you only want your students to take the self-assessment after having looked at, let's say on the screen, items 1 through 5, then if you have chunked things up correctly, then you can create an intelligent agent, a release condition that says, my students can take an assessment or a self-assessment at this point. So students can't do the self-assessment and figure things out. And that might be a way that you want to manage the behavior of younger students. For me, with more senior students, I often want to give them the freedom to like jump ahead if they want to. And so then I'd give them access to the self-assessment really early and let them decide if they want to take it. If they do really well, then they know where to focus their attention. If they do really poorly, I would encourage them to go back and work through all the material really carefully. Similarly, intelligent agents can help you to talk to your students about what they are or aren't doing. So if, for example, you've chunked up your content, you can create an intelligent agent, which is essentially like a little email message that gets sent to students who haven't covered certain content by certain dates. So if by the end of week 2, you want all your students to have gotten onto your Vula site and done all the things for week 1 and at least opened week 2, you can create an intelligence agent that says, if a student has not come to my site, and if they have not opened the following items up to here, please send them an email saying, contact Shanali. Do those, like, I'm just describing those tools very generally and why chunking is important. Are there any comments or questions about that? Okay, I'm not seeing any unmutes. I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so as we've talked about so far, the content tool can be a really useful way to simply store and share resources in the way that you might have previously used something like the resources tool in Vula. Okay, and so you will see here that we've got these different foldering layers, and within them, we've got specific content. Okay, so that is a way to use the content tool so that it's really just about storing and sharing resources. An alternate way to use the content tool is to direct student learning. So the students, in the second way, the students come to one place in your course site. They come to content. And when they come to content, they do everything there. And you'll see that in this instance, the person's got little content elements, and then they have an assignment, and then they have a quiz, and then they've got a discussion. So you can also embed and interweave through your readings and through your videos, various forms of student engagement activities and various forms of assessment. This particular strategy for using the content tool is more likely to be a strategy that you pursue if you are leaning in the direction of a more blended course. It also works really well if you want to create a course structure that parallels what's happening in your face-to-face class, so that your students know day 1, there's a reading, day 2, we have discussions, day 3, we do a self-assessment activity, day 5, we do a short quiz. So if you want to create that kind of very structured pathway for your students, then weaving the student activities, discussions, assessments, quizzes, etc., into the content tool is a powerful way of doing it. Pausing for a second. Any questions about these two ways of using the content tool? I'm not seeing hands and I'm not seeing unmutes. So if it's okay, we're going to proceed. Please feel free to interrupt me at any point. Okay, colleagues, now what we're going to do is we're going to move to talking about actual stuff. And I'm going to use the word stuff because Amathuba talks about inserting stuff. So we're going to use the word stuff for now. That stuff might be things like, it might be PDFs for readings. It might be instructional text for your students. Things like you might want to say to your students, this week we're going to do 2 readings. We're working on this theme. There are these 2 critical readings. There's this one key thing I want you to watch, and we're meeting in the live session on Thursday, the 2-hour TUT or the 2-hour live or whatever it is, to work on the following things. So you might want to build in some of that kind of information. You might want to provide additional resources or activities in any way. And that happens generally through this linking function in Amathuba, and it happens primarily through these HTML documents. So let's go and do some activities in our Amathuba space, in our Amathuba section. What I would like you to do first, I think, is I'm going to ask you to go to Amathuba and we're going to add an HTML document to our lesson level. I want you to add it at the lesson level because I want to be sure that you know how to add something to a lesson level versus a folder level. So I'm going to ask you to go to your lesson level and add an HTML document. And then I'm going to ask you to go to your folder level and add a quiz or an assignment. Let me demo how to do this first. So I'm going to go, apologies, should turn my email off. So let me go create a quick unit that you can all see. Might not be that quick, apologies. So Shanali, and I'm going to go unit, save and close. Because everything lives in the cloud, it may take a moment in life. and I'm all the way at the bottom of the list, and I'm going to create new, and I'm going to create a new lesson, which you've done already, and I'm going to call it Shanali, and I'm going to call it lesson. And just to make sure that we're good, I'm going to do one more, create a new, I'm going to create a folder. And we're going to call it Shanali and folder. And in each of those instances, you can add some stuff to that gap. For your lesson space, I'd said that I wanted you to create an HTML page. So you make sure that your lessons tab is highlighted over here. You go create new, and you go HTML documents. There are a couple of things I want you to just be aware of. Essentially, this is a blank page that you can add anything you want to, okay? But it gives you space to not just say embed a video, but it also gives you space to say something about it. So this is my HTML page, and I'm just going to call it that so that people can see that that's what's going on. And I could put a due date here if I wanted, so my students have to do it by a certain date, and that's great for analytics. I want to introduce you to this select template option, and I would encourage you to play around with these. These are the most common ones at the moment. We are in a process as we work with faculties and departments of adding additional templates, in which case they will be named for your faculty or department. So for example, I know at the moment we're creating some templates for chemical engineering and electrical engineering because they've asked for specific things. If I know the same is true for example, the MBCHB courses. So if you're in a particular department, make sure you've chatted to your LD. They will know what templates are available to you, like what general templates are available to you, and you can browse for them. But I would like you to just flick through these and see what they look like, and simply choose any one. And when you click on it, it'll add itself to this general space over here. You can edit it, and then you click save and close. I'm just going to show you the elements one because it kind of covers everything. So I've clicked on elements. It takes a moment to change. I could change this picture if I wanted by clicking on it and then clicking on this button. And then I could upload a picture of my choice from wherever I wanted to, either one I created myself or one that I pulled off somewhere like Pexels or something like that. And all of this text here is just advice about this page. Okay, but it gives you things like what are the different elements you can have. You can have ordered lists, you can have block quotes, you can have readings, you can have assignments with some suggested detail for what's good for an assignment. You can have a video and it shows you how that works. And in order to change this, you click on insert stuff. This is the insert stuff button, folks, over here. And it gives you instructions for how to change the video up. It shows you what to do with discussions so that you can put in your discussion instructions and then add an element. A Jumbotron is just this fancy little box, different kinds of call outs, different kinds of boxes that exist on pages for students, tables, and so on. Okay. And if I save this and close it, you will see that hopefully on my lesson level page, when it gets there, there is so all the way down to Shanali, and under my page, oh, maybe I wasn't on the right one when I did it, there is my HTML page. Let's say I wanted it over here. I wanted it under that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag and put it there. Okay. All right, folks, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. And I'm going to ask you to go away and do two things for, or to work on doing two things for me. I'm going to ask you to start by simply adding an HTML page. And then I would like you to try at the same time as you are adding it. So add an HTML page. And then as well as adding an HTML page, I want you to try to add a quiz or an assignment. Let's start with the HTML doc first. Let's give that a try. The instructions are in the Zoom text chat as well, should you need them. And if you would like to try to add a quiz or an assignment, you can do so. And I'm going to pop some text instructions into the Zoom text chat if you would like to do that. And again, if you get stuck or if you have any questions, please feel free to just unmute and ask straight away. Aha, and I see that Nicole has added a lesson, and then she's added a lesson folder under it. I think everyone has conquered the folders. And I would like to encourage you to now start adding an HTML page somewhere in your process. Add an HTML page to one of your lesson level folders. And I'm going to let you do that. And you let me know with a thumbs up when you've done it, or if you have any questions, please shout. Okay, and I see that some people have added their lessons folders and they've added their folders, and I see a few people have added for example, an HTML page. I want to just encourage you to please feel free to keep working on that, keep trying on that. Is there anyone with questions? Anyone who's stuck? Aisha, where are you? Are you okay? Sorry, I'm on your unit, so I'm like seeing your little comment there, and I'm like, are you okay? Okay, folks, I'm going to, I think, I just need, oh, Aisha's having network problems. Ah, I'm sorry. The network on campus yesterday was horrible. I don't know if it's any better today. It's not a hassle at all. From our side, Aisha, I'm just sorry that you're having those problems. But folks, I just want to see, can I get some indication from you? Just unmute yourself or grab a reaction from the bottom of the Zoom screen, or put a yes or no in the Zoom chat. Let me know how you're doing. I just want one word, or a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a sad face. I just want some idea of how the group's doing. Kate's on the move. Okay. Thanks, Kate. Helpful. Fantastic. I see some thumbs uppies. Okay. And some celebrations. Cool. Is there anyone else? I'm worried about leaving people behind. Please, please, please yell if you feel left behind. Amanda's saying, I assume that even if you use the template, you can still, absolutely, Amanda. The templates are there as a kind of starting point to save you doing some of the formatting that is so important for course sites, but is a pain in the butt to do consistently across a course site. So please feel free to edit within the templates. Of course, you can also edit the look and feel of templates. Some people will do things like decide that they don't like that blue and decide that they're going to recolor for it. And you can do some of that in that space. You absolutely can. It just won't repeat itself across all of your course pages the way that a template does. You'll have to change it each time for now. Any other comments or questions so far? Okay, folks, I have 2 minutes, maybe, if I'm lucky. And I just want to very quickly show you a couple of other things. So I'm going to go back to share screen, and I'm going to ask you to please come join me on your Zoom screens, as tempting as it is to stay with the with Amathuba and play there. Come back to Zoom for a little bit for me. Okay, so what have we done so far? We've built our structure in the contents tool. We know how to add an HTML document. What you can also do is you can add an assignment or quiz or any other existing element, and I'll talk to you about this in a second. Just be aware that you can hide and unhide content, and I'll show you how to do that right now. There's a little eye icon at the top of every element. Moving content is super easy. Unlike subpages in Vula, which could not be clicked and dragged, you can drag and drop these, which makes my life incredibly happy. And you can replace files very easily. You can also import content. So one of the things that we're in the process of doing is creating some core components that people might import into their sites, things like a wellness module, so that you can have on your site a reminder for your students to take care of their mental health, and indications for students as to what to do when physically or mentally they're not well and they need support on campus. There is a kind of university-wide level module that you can import for that. Similarly, there is a digital literacy module that we're in the process of building that you can simply import into your course for students who need to seek out additional support, but who are unlikely to seek that out outside the course. We've talked a little bit about release conditions. I'm not going to get into that in detail now. And we've talked a bit about intelligent agents, which I also don't want to talk about in detail today. What I want to do, though, is I want to very quickly just show for you how you might add some of those other things that we talked about. So to my lesson, I want to add some existing things. I clicked on Add Existing. So I was on my lesson page. Finally, I'm on that level, and I want to add some existing things. So I click on Add Existing, and you'll see I have all these options. I can add an assignment, a discussion, a quiz, a checklist, some kind of external tool activity. And that, if we click on that, it brings up a list of tools, including things like Gradescope, Hypothesis, Leganto, MATLAB Graders, Respondus Lockdown. These are all tools that are either currently integrated into Amathuba or are in the process of being integrated. And so, for example, if I clicked on its tool like Hypothesis, that would launch the Hypothesis tool within this space. I don't want to get stuck into the details of them now because everybody's going to have different external tools that they want to use in their particular course setup. Okay, and you'll see that it's popped it under a folder, and I don't want it under the folder. I want it under lessons, so I'm just going to drag and drop it there. So just to be aware that you can add a whole bunch of different existing things. You can, of course, also add a whole lot of new things, including, for example, a web link, which might just be a web link from another tool like YouTube. You can add some of the things that we've talked about at the new level. You can obviously add those sorry, at the existing level, you can obviously add those from new. So you could add an assignment from here. It would launch the assignment tool, and you would simply create it as you would otherwise. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. Are there any comments or questions or anything that people would like to ask about? Yeah, I see Nadine's comment in the text chat, which is that it is an excellent idea to plan your units, lessons, and folders before starting your build on Amathuba. Absolutely critical to do that. Makes it a lot easier. Okay, colleagues, can we take a 5-minute comfort break, please? And come back at past? Oh, sorry, come back. Listen to me at past. Oh, sorry, Kense. Please do evacuate. Thank you, Amanda. I understand that with an hour and a half, people do sometimes need to jump into other sessions. But colleagues, let's take a 5-minute comfort break. We'll come back at about 11:05. And when we come back at 11:05, we're just going to talk about announcements, calendars, emails, and class lists and roles within the Amathuba space. Okay, so we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then Yakuluntu and Nadine will pick up after the break.
So the next section we're going to focus on is just communicating with students. Again, we are going to touch briefly on most of these elements, but all of the information is available on the staff resources page. And also remember that you can also book a consultant with one of the SALT LDs. And if you're as part of the migration process, you can definitely also reach out to your LD to work with you. So the first thing I mentioned briefly earlier today in the session that you can be enrolled in different roles on Amathuba. For example, on the self-paced training site, you will be enrolled as a student. So it's a very good idea, I think, and I would strongly recommend that you go and click around on that site just from a student perspective to see how that looks like. And because it looks a bit different, you can also view as a student while you are creating the courses on Amathuba. However, it's not exactly the same. It was the same in Vula as well. So it's not exactly the same experience. So just be mindful of that. And you can always just enroll through a student account if maybe you have a different UCT account available. If you really want to get that technical, it should not be necessary for you. I'm quickly going to look at 4 of the most prominent roles that you would mostly work with, or 5 actually. The first one is that you are currently enrolled as a lecturer on this site, and then there's also the option to enroll people as support staff, and support staff would typically be your teaching assistants. So that's other people that's involved, but maybe doesn't have to take main responsibilities, not the course conveners. Everything is listed there that they can and cannot do. Not going to read everything, but it's very similar to the roles that we had in Vula. Then we also have the tutor role. So limited there, it's got slightly less functionality. They cannot create everything like you can do in the lecture and the support staff role. And then obviously there's the student role where they can view announcements, and they mostly in a viewer role, and then also where they can submit the activities like quizzes, assignments, they can access the rubrics, those type of things. And then just to note, there's also the observer role. The observer role, so that's literally somebody that will be able to view your course and can access your course, but they cannot really do anything on your course. There were some talks about the creation of a role of an external examiner. At this stage, it seems like they are enrolled as an observer, but when the time comes and you need to enroll somebody, just make sure you know that we have the correct, and we will also follow up on that information and share it with you. The enrolling and the unenrolling of the users, we saw that this morning in action through the screen sharing. So I don't know if you want me to go through that again. I think that's actually, if you just, I think the most important, I'm going to click out of the presentation, just quickly into the course itself. So just here on your course nav bar on this one, if you go to course info, under the drop-down list in that menu, you will see there is class list. And as we saw this morning, sometimes if you cannot find somebody the first time around, just maybe try, if it's not by their first name, then try their surname. If that doesn't work, you can even try the username. And if that still doesn't work, it means that there's maybe a problem with the enrollment itself. And you are welcome to send then a request to SILT Help Desk, and they can help you to troubleshoot the issue. So basically just enrolling, unenrolling people, you can click, so you can do multiple enrollments or unenrollments at a time. So you can see if I click under the enrollment button, it will tell me exactly, and I can change their roles as well. If I would want to, I can also search for people through the user role. I think just a tip, if you have big classes, just make sure that you scroll all the way to the bottom, but there is a page 1 of 2, page 2 of 2. So you can set here, if you have really large classes, how many items do you want displayed at the same time? Currently it's set at, I think, 20 per page, but you can increase that even to 200 per page if you don't want to scroll down the whole time. And your total users, so currently we know there are 29 people that are enrolled on this course, but that includes all the roles, student role, lecturer role, etc., etc. And if you want to unenroll a person, there's the unenroll button. Again, you can just simply click on that, click on the unenroll. It will give you a confirmation usually. Yes, you have selected to, so then you say either yes or no. In this case, we're going to say no. Also important, from the class list, what you can see is there's a drop down next to the person's name. Interestingly enough, I can see who's online. There's the green dots, people that's currently active on Amathuba. It will display the green dots. So that's just an interesting thing that may be useful for you in certain instances. Directly from here, you can also send emails. You can view their blog. You can view in which groups people are enrolled. You can also edit the accommodation you want to. Just in the interest of time, I want to hand over to Yakuluntu next. I just quickly want to check, are there any questions?
I've got a question, Nadine. It's Elmarie here.
Yes.
How do you enroll somebody that's not on that list? An external examiner, for instance, who's not a student, who doesn't have a...
So that's another difference. For that, SILT Help Desk would need to create a user account for that person. So in that instance, you can just send their email address and their name and surname with their details and the course that you need to enroll them to. But the most important thing is just that SILT Help Desk needs to create an account for them. It mostly will be a guest account. And then as soon as they created that guest account, either you can enroll them or you can ask SILT Help Desk, in your email to enroll them. So that's at this stage, the process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. So Yakuluntu, I'm handing over back to you.
Thank you so much, Nadine. Let me share my screen real quick. So I'll be taking you guys. Is my screen sharing? The correct one? Yes.
Announcements and email. Yes.
Nice. Yes. So the announcements, basically the announcement tool in Amathuba is used for sending messages to your students, and it's available within course info, and then drop down menu, there's announcements. So as with Vula, the announcement tool will allow you to display the announcement tool widgets within the course homepage. You can create, copy, delete, edit an announcement. You can save an announcement as a draft, or you can publish it, or you can schedule when you want to publish the announcements. So I will quickly show you guys, maybe let me use this one. So as I said, that with the announcements, you can find them. Is the Amathuba site showing?
No, we're seeing your presentation still.
Oh, okay, I'm probably showing the wrong one. Let me stop sharing. Let me see. Okay, yeah, this one. Sorry about that. Yes, so I'm now sharing. Is the Amathuba showing? Amathuba
Yeah.
Brightspace training, yes. So Amathuba, you can see the announcements tool within the course homepage, but you can also find it within the main nav bar under the drop-down menu. Then you can click on your announcements. So within the announcements, you can see past announcements that you had, previous announcements that you had, and for you to create a new announcement, you see that there's a blue button written new announcements. You can click on new announcements. And then what I'd love for us, actually, I should have been on Shonali's Brightspace training. I'd like for us to create an announcement, each and every one of us to create an announcement. So let me just hover to Shonali's one. Let me see. Yeah. Yes. So I'd love for us to create an announcement. So is everyone within Shonali's online training course?
Correct.
Yes. So I would like for us to create an announcement. So to create an announcement, you'd click on new announcement. So for example, you would maybe you want to remind them of an exam that's coming up, maybe exam reminder. So I want each and every one of us to try and create an announcement. It can vary. You can create an announcement, a welcome announcement, but can each and every one of us create an announcement and then it'll reflect within course home. Maybe we can take 2 minutes for that. I'm creating mine, and hopefully you guys are also on your screens creating your own announcements. It doesn't have to be long, just a hi students. Is a reminder that you have your exam on Friday the 18th of November. So that's my announcement. It's pretty basic, but I'd also like for all of us to create just a basic announcement, and then we'll see them reflecting within course home, as the most recent announcements are usually profiled within course home.
And
So,
Valencia,
yes.
just to give you feedback, we've got several announcements posted already. Kate, both
Awesome.
Kate has, and Kyle has, and Shanaz has, and Liziwe has. And so I think people are getting the hang of that really nicely.
Oh, that's nice. Okay,
Lots of
shortly
people
I will.
have actually.
Okay, so what's nice with announcements, so as you scroll down, you can see the availability to say you want this announcement to show at a certain date. You can click the exact date and time that you want the announcement to be posted, and you can also have an end date. And what's nice here is that there's a rich text editor, just like any basic HTML page on Amathuba, where you can, play around with, you can insert a link, insert, or even within the attachments, you can add a file, record audio, record a video. And then there's also additional release conditions where you can attach an existing condition from the tools, from your assignments, your class list, your checklist. So what's nice, as I said, that you don't have to publish it immediately. You can save it as a draft, but we are publishing it. And I'm excited to go and now see assignments that have been posted. Kate, hi all. Lovely exam information from Aisha. This really lovely. And then A fire quenching test, yes. So this is nice that everyone has managed to create announcements. Sorry guys, I'm a bit rushing because of time, but I'm happy to see that everyone is getting the hang of, you know, announcements. It really does create community for your students. And let me just maybe go back to the previous one. Here, for example, you can delete old announcements. For example, you can have a bulk delete for your announcements, or you can individually delete announcements, or you can edit, you can view, you can copy the same announcement, or you can dismiss the announcement, and students can also do the same from their end as well. And also emails, you can also send emails. And I think Nadine did mention that you can also send emails, and emails are usually attached to the tools. You can email an individual student, multiple students, or a whole class. So I think with Shanali's one, there isn't really assignment. Let me see, maybe let me use this Amathuba self-paced training to demo this. So for example, if you want to send an email to a group, you'd go to groups, and you can select which group you want to send to, and then you know, send an email. And what it does is that it BCCs them as the recipients are BCC'd. You can also, within class list, you can also, I think Nadine did demo that, you can also email all the students or a certain student, and you can even email maybe a student that didn't submit their assignment. So you can also do that within the activities under the assignments. Under the assignments, you can decide which, for example, if you click on the assignment, you can email users without submissions, as I've mentioned. So that is the announcements in the email. And then I'd also like us to spend a bit of time with also the calendar. Let me try and hover into calendar. Yeah, it's a bit difficult with a Zoom. Sometimes the taskbar is above, so let me just drag it down. So we are now on to calendar. So with the calendar, it's nice in that students can view all their courses and the associated events. You know, they can view the calendar for a specific course or the calendars of all their courses. So let me go back to Shanali's online training course. So with the calendar, you can see that I'm here in course home. The calendar is usually showing within the course home page, but maybe if it's not on your end, you can always manage home pages. But I won't really demo that for today. Quickest way to access your calendar would be in course home. I'm sorry, in yes, course info. And then within course info, you click on calendar. So once you get to calendar, you are able to see that there's a variety of views. You can view it either through agenda, by day, by week, by month, by list view. So for you to create to create an event, you would click on the blue button that says create event. So click on that. So say, for example, you want to alert them on a coming test or quiz, or maybe you have evaluation dates for your students, or you have maybe an assignment date that you want it to be in the calendar and the students can remember which they remember the date, the due date. So for example, we want to say test, or let's say quiz rather, maybe quiz 1, and then description. Perhaps you want to remind your students that they have a test coming up, within week 1, say for example, yeah, you use the description to tell them that they should remember that they have a quiz, and maybe also the readings that they need, or you add content. So you can also add content on your units. So you can add, you can see here, there's Nadine's unit, there's various units. So you can link it to a unit. You can link it to a unit, but in this case, we won't link it to a unit. And then attendees, is this within a tutorial group, or is it for everyone within the course offering? And then when is this happening? You'd maybe it's an all-day event. If it's a test, for example, you'd maybe do it an all-day event or specific times for that test. And then you can also add a reoccurrence, whether is this a daily thing, a weekly, a monthly, is it an annual event? Maybe let's say it's a weekly, they have weekly quizzes. Repeat every week. So they maybe write it every Monday, and then the location, you'd also create your location there. So maybe let's create. So once you click create, you can, okay, let me. Okay, let me create new. I don't think I actually inserted a date. I don't remember. Quiz 1, and then, okay, let's say 18th of November, add reoccurrence, maybe daily, and then we create it. So yes, so it is reflecting there. It's bold, so it should be here because it's on the 18th. Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing. Is there something that I'm doing wrong, Ashunali? Because
Not sure. Don't stress about it though. Rather go on to the next thing. And what we can do is we'll just double check what's happened to it. And we'll come back to everybody if there was anything wrong with our instructions.
Okay. Yes, because usually a blue dot would have to show within the, maybe let me try it on my end to say calendar. And then I create new event, quiz 1. Say 17th, and then create. Me go to course home and look under the upcoming events. Oh yes, so it did create, it's just that I have to go to course home. So it did create quiz 1. So at 11:30. So these upcoming events, so the student is able to see upcoming events within their calendar, and it's really nice. They can add, you can add holidays, you can add your birthdays. There's just different, even the assignments, to remind them of an assignment that they need to hand in. So going back to the calendar. So as I said, there's different views. I like the list view in that you can filter it by checklist, discussions, events, materials. So yeah, but there's different views that you can have for your list view. And then lastly, actually an important one is to say, with your Outlook, because I know some people do their planning on Outlook or Google Calendar, so you can actually import events, the iCal file. You can choose, you can save that Google Calendar or Outlook calendar and import the file here, and then it would reflect the dates. So I believe that I am done and would like to ask, are there any questions? Sorry, I had a bit of a rush there because of time. Are there any questions?
Hi there, it's Nicole. I just want to ask the subscribe function for students, how does that work? Does that mean that they can have it, all the dates automatically pop up on the phones or emails, or how does that work?
Yes, so they can subscribe. They should subscribe to the all calendars and tasks. In that way, all the events that you create on your end, they reflect to them.
Okay.
And within settings, you can also choose to say, what are your core hours, and you can also enable the calendar feeds to show.
Sure. Okay, sure. Thank you.
Cool, Nicole.
Thanks.
Just to add on to that, Nicole, if you check on the mini bar at the very top of your Amathuba page, I want to say next to the course selector, the waffle tool, you see the next one. If you hover with your mouse over that, you will see that it says subscription alerts. So if there are various discussions going on, next to the subscription alerts is the update alert. That's the bell icon. So Yakulunta, sorry, if you can maybe just go to the top.
Yes.
The bell icon there in the very mini bar just next to your name. Yeah, so the update alerts, all activities will reflect there, but the subscription alerts next to that is an opt-in for specific ones. If they maybe found a particular discussion very interesting, then they can opt in for the subscription alert. So that's like an additional funnel, I want to say, of just special alerts to a certain degree.
Thank you so much.
Yes, colleagues, is there any further questions? I will take that as a positive. No, there's no questions. And definitely want to thank you guys. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us. And as Nadine has said, that you can sign up for further Amathuba trainings. You can book for a one-on-one. You can also contact the SILT help desk. Thanks all. I don't know if you have any last words, Shonali.
No, just to say thank you very much to my co-presenters. And in the follow-up email, folks will attach slides and some of the other places where you can find further resources. And if you are looking after courses, particularly if you're looking after first-year courses, you should have heard from an LD by now, a learning designer person from SILT. If you haven't, please just return by email to us that you haven't heard from someone, and we'll take it up from there. Second, third, fourth year courses that are kind of what we're thinking of as slightly out of phase may have slightly different arrangements. But thank you, everyone.